It is Thursday and we are back to business as usual. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma alongside Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono and Chantal Olive Akandinda plus Joram Paul Sonko in Studio B. Now Thursday is also a day when we throw back to great music, and I hope you enjoyed some of the numbers that have been played for you right before the show, especially the one from S Club 7. I don't know if you remember those days. I never had a dream come true. Beautiful music, beautiful memories, beautiful moments. But now we get into the order of the day with the business that we do as usual, the business of informing you and having topical discussions with you to kickstart your day, give you different updates in business, in trade, in traffic updates, and of course tourism. And we will be doing that right about now. But before we delve into the news stories we got for you today, I'd like to know how Robert Chirabo is doing.
I'm very fine. I just was enjoying the music. Our producer is doing us justice. And you know, when you play for me that song, Lady in Red by Christy Barr, you just make my morning. Now you make it even more if you play Mysterious Girl by Peter Andre. Those two songs, and the last one finally doesn't sound well to some people. If you put on another color, that is your baby never looked good in blue. So if you just do those songs for me, well, I actually thought it was a Friday.
Oh yeah, they were so relaxing.
So relaxing. No matter, that's why I tell people, no matter how stressful your night could have been, just begin your day with us. Because we bring in all those spices that you need to know. But I was also a bit concerned yesterday seeing my good friend Anderson Hurora making his way to Ruzira prison. That is a former city resident commissioner for Rubaga. On charges, yes, issues are in court, but you know, certain things coming from glory to sometimes, but I hope because due to our legal system, he's still innocent and proven guilty by a competent court. But I hope he manages to sail through.
What are the charges that are being levied against him?
Well, promoting hatred and in one way, harming the person of the Speaker of Parliament by spreading hate speech, among others.
Wow.
Using, because it's charged in the Computer Misuse Act.
Okay.
Because most of so far, what we know is that he was using his official X page to write and communicate these all that have been put together as charges against him.
Well, we will be following this story and bringing you updates regarding the same. But now I would like to switch to Studio B and check on Chantal Olive Akandinda. Good morning.
Good morning, Olive. How are you feeling this Thursday morning?
I am feeling absolutely great. How are you feeling?
It will be a good weekend.
It has already started.
Clearly, the weekend has already started.
With the music that were playing for us this morning?
You know, when I walked into the studio, I didn't find the producer in here. Usually, he is actually inside here. I didn't find him, and I was wondering, what is happening? Only to check somewhere else. And he was the one on the ones and twos. Good morning, our viewer. Pardon?
He was in the thick of things.
Yeah. I can only imagine where his mind was while he was selecting that kind of music. But it's very good music. But good morning, our viewer, and thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you are enjoying the Thursday morning as we are. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having the interactions with you as we always do.
Well, I found the producer walking out of the studio and he was in a hurry, like a man that is on a mission. And that mission was to entertain us today. So I am wondering which song he's going to give us for the inspiration song of the day, because it has to be a throwback song and he has the way of surprising us with his choices. Maybe we will get Peter Andre with Mysterious Girl, because Chiraba has been praying and praying, and probably his wish will be granted. But even if not, we will get you a very beautiful song to entertain you. I don't know if Joram Paul understands this music though.
We Gen Zs listen to this music by, by tuning in into the, how are they called? Is it the tape? What were those tape discs of our parents back in the day?
Cassette.
I use those ones. The cassette. No, that's what my mother used to use, and my father to listen to some of those. To listen to some of those. To listen to some of those songs. Not so many of them, but the beauty is some radio stations also do throwbacks to some of these songs, so we get to listen to them and relate to the lyrics at times. Because the beauty about the music then is that at least it could communicate directly, whether it's a love song, an inspirational song. Today, a love song says typically very weird things, and you wonder what the artist is intending to achieve. But nonetheless, here we are, it's Thursday, and it being a throwback, I wanted to throw back to the times of election time, that is in school, because there was a report that was released recently here that the rise of competitive politics in schools has started to worry many parents, and it has actually affected the mental health of some of the students, because there has been a change of how things work lately. You do realize that in schools there was a video that was also trending where a student it wasn't even a student, it was a pupil who went to school in a G-Wagon asking for elections. So you can easily see how we are trying to turn everything into a monetary aspect. We've been looking at commercialization of politics and how it is making our political space become a little bit a corrupt, kind of I don't know, carrier, if that is the right word to use. And when you go back to the grassroots, back in the day, elections in schools were different. You could easily see a candidate coming to your class and promising you things that he couldn't achieve, but at least he was being realistic with some of the many he was promising.
So you're saying that our children at a very young age are learning the tactics and antics of the politicians we have today.
Exactly. And now they're getting the picture that in politics you have to buy the votes, or you have to impress, and you have to commercialize everything, which is becoming a very dangerous kind of thing for Uganda's politics. And as much as we are calling for civic education, you do realize that times are changing, and that means the leaders of tomorrow may be worse than the ones we are having today. But also in regards to the election bit of it, you do realize that other developments coming in have also revealed that the local councils have been given further 6 months of stay in office. So we have to wait and see when will they leave the office.
And this is not the first extension. There was an extension last year.
Last year we were extending.
Exactly. So we have another extension. One wonders, are they still relevant? This is a question that will be answered a little later on. For now, Robert takes us through the first news story of the day.
And I'll begin with the arrest and appearing before court of the former resident city commissioner for Rubaga, Burora. The suspended and former resident commissioner Anderson Burora Herbert appeared at Uganda Magistrates Court for plea following charges that led to his arrest on Monday night from his home in Ntindakigowa, Naka Division in Kampala district. Before Buganda Road Chief Magistrate Ronald Kayizi, Anderson Burora Herbert was charged with 2 counts of spreading hate speech and spreading malicious information ridiculing the person and dignity of the Speaker of Uganda's Parliament. Burora, who was charged under the Computer Misuse Act 2022, however, he pleaded not guilty to the alleged offences. After charge, Burora's legal team raised an objection disputing the legality of the charges, among other the undisclosed particulars of the offences against their client. Due to time in responding to the raised concern from defense, prosecution asked court for some time to make its reply, which court granted. Magistrate Ronald Kayizi remanded him to Ruzira prison till July 9th this very year, the day when prosecution will reply to the defense raised issues. Former RCC Rubaga was remanded Burora's arrest on Monday followed a post on his official X handle at Hada HB between March and June this very year, which information prosecution alleges that is likely to promote hostility against the Speaker of Parliament. Burora was arrested on Monday from his home in Ntinda.
Now focusing on matters Kampala Capital City Authority and roundabouts, Kampala Capital City Authority is set to phase out 27 traditional roundabouts and construct 27 signalized junctions. With funding from the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, approximately 78 billion Ugandan shillings has been injected into the project. Some of the identified traffic choke points include Renzori Courts Roundabout, Grand Imperial, Mulago, Mulago City Mortuary and Mulago Kubiri. One of the most pressing challenges in Kampala City is traffic congestion in, around and out of the central business district. This has led to reduced productivity among the city's workforce and business owners, increased travel times, higher road maintenance costs and more air pollution. To alleviate this, Kampala Capital City Authority, in partnership with the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA, is upgrading over 27 traditional junctions to signalized ones. According to Kampala Capital City Authority spokesperson Daniel Nwabine Muhumuza, the authority has so far commenced work on 5 roundabouts currently under construction. Among the roundabouts under construction is Mulago City Mortuary, among others. The KCCA site inspector at Mulago explains the duration these works are expected to take. Additionally, he cites the challenges they encounter in completing these works. However, Ugandans have been urged to exercise patience and remain calm as the ongoing works will ultimately benefit them. As part of the 78 billion Uganda shillings granted to KCCA for upgrading the 27 traditional junctions to signalized ones, some funding has been allocated to the construction of a traffic control center at the City Hall. This center will manage traffic flow using a digital system connected to these signalized junctions.
And moving on, in April 2023, the Sudanese Armed Forces clashed with Rapid Support Services, a paramilitary group which has seen the African country torn into pieces. The women, girls and children became the #1 victims and thousands have left their home country. Now Sudanese women are meeting in Kampala to amplify their voices and enhance coalition building among women and provide a platform for women to jointly articulate and develop a common vision for rebuilding peace in South Sudan. The Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, opened the conference at Speak Resort Munyonyo in Kampala. Nabanja called on Sudan women to create an impact that will last beyond their lives in an effort to rebuild peace in their country. Former Vice President Dr. Specioza Wandera Kaziwe, who is also a member of a high-level panel on Sudan, and Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Betty Amongi, underscored the impact of women in governance on the African continent. The outcome of the conference will feed into the upcoming peace process dialogues to be convened by the Africa Union high-level panel on Sudan.
Now moving on, the Parliamentary Committee on Statutory Authority and State Expenditure, COSASE, has engaged with the management of Uganda Civil Aviation Authority to discuss the Auditor General's report for the financial year 2022-23. The committee noted that Uganda Civil Aviation Authority was allocated a total of 242.1 billion shillings, where the authority collected 239.1 billion less than the budget. The Director General Uganda Civil Aviation Authority, Fred Bamwesije, responded. The committee interested itself in finding out how the authority has implemented outputs and activities. It was discovered that a total of 240 billion was spent on activities, yet out of this amount, 172 billion shillings was spent on activities that were not implemented. In the year 2022-23, the Uganda Civil Aviation Authority wage expenditure, according to the Auditor General's report, suppressed the allocated 96 billion. The members of parliament also wanted to know how the authority paid 28 billion on what it termed as other staff costs. According to the Auditor General's report, concerns of payment of non-existent staff, irregular overpayment of staff, and appointments of staff that don't meet qualifications were raised. The authority responded to the claims. The authority was also tasked to explain on the recent reports about the drainage system at Entebbe Airport. The committee tasked the authority to present relevant documents in the next meeting. Well, that does it for the local news. Now let's have a look at the international news.
I am not leaving, Biden says, and this is in response to the pressure that is on to him now. U.S. President Joe Biden worked to calm senior Democrats and staff on his campaign yesterday, as reports suggested he was weighing his future after his disastrous debate with Donald Trump last week. Mr. Biden held a closed-door lunch with Vice President Kamala Harris at the White House as speculation mounted over whether she would replace him as the party's candidate in November's election. The pair then joined a call with the broader Democratic campaign, where Mr. Biden made clear he would remain in the race, and Ms. Harris reiterated her support. "I am the nominee of the Democratic Party. No one is pushing me out. I am not leaving," he told the call, and a source told news agencies. That same phrase was repeated in a fundraising email sent out a few hours later by the Biden-Harris campaign. "Let me say this as clearly and simply as I can. I am running," Mr. Biden said in the email, adding that he was in the race until the end. Questions have been swirling around whether the 81-year-old will continue his campaign following the debate with Trump, which was marked by verbal blanks, a weak voice, and some answers which were difficult to follow. It sparked concern in Democratic circles around his fitness for office and his ability to win the election. Pressure on Mr. Biden to drop out has only grown in the days since, as more polls indicate that his Republican rivals' lead has widened. Away from that, Israel confirmed that it was evaluating Hamas's comments on a deal to free its hostages in the Palestinian territory and would reply. With the death toll mounting and conditions worsening daily for Gazans, both sides are under increased international pressure to agree a ceasefire, more recently based on a roadmap pushed by U.S. President Joe Biden. Hamas has demanded a permanent ceasefire and complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Israel says there can be no halt on hostilities until Hamas releases all hostages seized during the October 7th attacks. Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu has also repeatedly vowed that Israel's Gaza campaign will not end until Hamas's military and governing capabilities are destroyed. Qatar, working closely with the United States, has been leading mediation efforts. "We exchanged some ideas with the mediator brothers with the aim of stopping the aggression against our Palestinian people," a Hamas statement said. Netanyahu's office and the Mossad intelligence services confirmed the new approach almost straight away. Now back to Africa. A total of 31 defendants, including 27 soldiers and 4 of their civilian wives, appeared before the Butembo Garrison Military Court in North Kivu province near the front line. They had faced several charges, including fleeing the enemy, dissipating munitions of war, violating orders, and theft. Jules Muvweko, one of the defense lawyers, told news agencies. At the end of the hearing, 25 soldiers, including 2 captains, were sentenced to death, Muveko said, adding the defense intended to appeal. The other accused, including the 4 women, were acquitted for lack of evidence, he said. Since the end of last week, the M23, also known as March 23 movement, have taken several towns in the northern front of the conflict. Their gains include the strategic town of Kanyawayonga, which is seen as a gateway to the major commercial centers of Butembo and Beni. The M23 have also seized vast swaths of territory over the past several years, almost completely encircling Goma, the provincial capital of North Kivu, killing scores of people and displacing hundreds and thousands more. Now matters climate. Jamaica is bracing for a powerful hurricane as it roars towards the Caribbean island. Beryl, a Category 4 storm with winds near 140 meters per hour or 220 kilometers per hour, is expected to pass near or over the southern coast in the next few hours, and this is according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center. It predicts life-threatening winds and storm surge in Jamaica as well as Cayman Islands later. At least 7 people have been killed so far as the storm sweeps through the Caribbean. A hurricane warning is in effect in Jamaica, where the authorities have imposed curfew from 6 to 18 hours local time. Prime Minister Andrew Holmes urged people to take this hurricane seriously. If you live in a low-lying area, in areas historically prone to flooding and landslide, or if you live in the banks of a river or a gully, I implore you to evacuate to a shelter or to safer ground, he said. And that tops our climate news and international news this morning.
Well, thank you, Chantal. Now let's get to Joram Paul to give us what he has in the dailies.
Well, the dailies, the New Vision is highlighting that Uganda National Oil Company's first oil import has arrived, and all that is in the New Vision. You can follow up and see what government has set as a timeline for dealers to start trading in the UNOC oil. Also, the Kasatos in-laws should not interfere in marriages. They share their view on how to keep a successful marriage. Then extension, local councils get 6 more months in office. Then in Martha's crime, police arrest woman over husband's cut genitals. Interesting report. Survey, more Ugandans lose trust in members of parliament. The New Vision highlights. And then there is also a pictorial of the team from the Uganda National Oil Company at the port of Mombasa. That is UNOC, as they were receiving that bunch of the 58,000 metric tons of petrol in Mombasa. Now, the Daily Monitor, Uganda National Roads Authority and 21 agencies hit in new hiring freeze. You can look at merger chopping board. The fate of thousands of employees across government parastatals has gone back to the floor of Parliament after the executive directed for the retabling of the repeal bills of 2024. Now on the headlines you can see Catherine Kajina, UNRA Executive Director. There is also Dr. Hatwib, that is the NITA-U Executive Director. Then you can also see Mr. Samson Akinkiriza Mpira of the DDA, the Acting Executive Director of the DDA as well, part of those highlighted at the Daily Monitor. Now, in DM today, our love has overcome every obstacle. Read about this couple and how they've been able to keep the candle burning in their relationship. Then Burora now remanded over hate speech, says the Daily Monitor. Now, in the other news feature, how crafty labor export companies beat security controls. Now, besides that, also Katanga case, defense wants prosecutor to turn into witness. As national news, LC polls hung in the balance with new term. Now in Kenya, the Daily Nation, jitters as Ruto cabinet purge looms as reshuffle. The anxiety has gripped top officials in both the executive and parliament. Then why some members of parliament fear to visit their constituents. Read about that in the Daily Nation. Now, how goons infiltrated youth protests. The Daily Nation gives you details. Also, why President stopped pay rise for state officers. And then in Euro 2024, Europe's big boys square off in quarterfinals. That is with the Daily Nation. Lastly, from our press reviews, The Citizen from Tanzania, why writing was on the wall for Trade Minister and the TRA boss. Then National, there is an arrest. Banning of Samia picture sparks legal debate. Then from reporter to CEO, the story of a media executive in an exclusive interview. Then how Mozambique and Tanzania can boost trade. That report is also in the Daily, in the Citizen. Then Kabendera files $10 million sue against Vodacom. That is with our press review this morning.
Well, thank you, Jerome Paul. Now, today is Thursday, Throwback Thursday. And with that, we play you a song from back in the day. Now, I don't know if you remember the times, especially it could be your parents that would have been listening to this music by Kat's band, and Prosi Kankunda was the lead. Prosi Kankunda was a big deal back in the day. And here is a song, Ngawa, by Prosi Kankunda.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Morning and welcome back from the beautiful weekend. I hope you had a good one, as I did. It was a beautiful Sunday and also the last day of June 2024. Now, the month of June had so many happenings all across the country, but elsewhere in East Africa and across the world. Last week, in the last week of June, there was the first presidential debate in the United States between the incumbent, that is Joe Biden, and the aspirant, that is the former president, Donald Trump. Now, there is debate on who is more suitable to become the next president of the United States of the two men. Both of them have had one term, and now we wait to see what the Americans will choose. Now, going back to Kenya, we had President Ruto concede and say that he is repealing and will not sign the proposed finance bill that the Generation Zs had been protesting for over 2 weeks, and also led to the death of about 6 people, but some people say that more people died. But the president said only 6 had died. Now, coming back to Uganda, members of parliament were arrested over corruption charges, and as we speak, the cases are in court. Still speaking about the members of parliament, there was a switch and turn of events when some members of parliament went to Lwengo and implored the people of Lwengo to ask the president to pardon the area member of parliament who is also facing charges of corruption, saying she is the daughter of the land, and in case she had done a mistake, she has learned and they should forgive him. Now, still speaking about events that happened in Uganda, last week we had a preliminary report from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, and it shows that Ugandans are now at 45.9 million people. So the population growth has been just about 11 million people in the last 10 years. So much more happened last month. Today is the first day of July 2024. Welcome aboard. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najuma, and I have Chantal Oliver Kandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko in Studio B, and right next to me is Chirabo Robert Nyanyintono. He just did something. It's like Alikubuko, but we are at UBC doing Good Morning Uganda. You look amazing.
Oh, thank you. You look very beautiful in blue.
Thank you.
Just that there's a song I love so much.
What's the name of the song?
And I don't want to mention anything because it is the opposite direction. But I must say blue is one of your colors.
Well, thank you so much, Shirabo. Now, we also have more news in terms of a reshuffle in the Uganda police. What do you know about that?
Well, Fred Enanga, who has been at the helm of representing or the voice of the police, is moved to deputy in charge of Interpol. Now, Interpol, that is more of international police. And we have Rushoke, who has been also around for some time. Many Ugandans will remember him when he was at the helm of security at KCCA.
Okay.
And this move means so much. Now, Fred Enanga, first and foremost, this is not the first time he was appointed as the spokesperson. There was a time Fred Enanga was the spokesperson, deputized by Paulina Namayo, and he had been, I want to use the word dropped, because in forces you're not dropped, you're just given another assignment.
You are reassigned.
You were reassigned. But then later, he bounced back to that very position. But what it means for him to go to international police, because when we talk about Interpol and being the deputy there, we just hope his long experience speaking for the police. You know, in public relations, PR is, you sit at management level.
That's true.
It is management. Now, when you're going to Interpol and you're the deputy there, it's slightly different from here, where because you have to speak for the force, all decisions where they are being made in the boardrooms, you're there, because eventually you're going to communicate. He's going to be a little bit away from the media. And to our brother Rushoke, who is coming in, he's also had some good years and experience in Uganda police. But this is a very challenging position. And I want to congratulate Honorable, I want to congratulate Afande Enanga for the time he has served.
Yes.
Speaking for Uganda police or the forces anywhere is a complicated task.
Very
so
complicated.
the one coming in, this is not a time to celebrate. It's more of a time to be very conscious. I just want to take you back in just this month where we had MPs arrested, where Enanga would come and say we have no information about these people. Then the following day is the same person coming up and telling you how they are at CID, how they are at special investigations. But the previous day, you know, and some of the arrests that have been coming on, says police, we don't have these people, we don't know where they are, and then later they are surfacing in court. So one, it puts you in the limelight. That is one. Two, with this social media, you must be very, very accurate with what you're saying. Otherwise, it is a very hard task, I must say, and very challenging. It's in just a minute, you're all messed up and you can't believe. With social media, it's very it's speaking for the forces is one of the hardest tasks in Uganda police force.
Well, we congratulate the men in uniform upon these new assignments and hope that they will be doing a good job where they have been assigned. Personally, I'll miss Afande Fred Enanga at the helm of public relations at the Uganda Police Force, but we give opportunity to new people and see what they've got for the country and for the force. But now moving to Studio B, Chantal Olive Akandinda. I like saying all your names with a pause because they're beautiful names. Anyway, speaking about Chantal, isn't it a beautiful time when the new month begins on a Monday?
Is it though?
I think it is.
I would have. It kind of seems like it's too serious a month to begin on a Monday.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much for sticking with us. I'm Olive Monica Najima alongside Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono and Chantal Oliver Kandinda and Jerome Paul Sonko in Studio B. Now, the judiciary says that they have lots of cases in their backlog. They have lots of case backlog, and they say that to resolve these, we need to think about different ways or alternative means of conflict resolution. And a few of these have been suggested, and would like to delve into that, because the judiciary says that they have so many flimsy small cases they're handling, and now it is building up cases that are yet to be handled. Yet, if we were to resolve these in different ways, maybe the judiciary wouldn't have a lot to deal with, and they would put their focus on the cases that really need, first of all, government's money and time to be resolved. That is the conversation we are having this morning. And starting with Chirabo, first of all, what are some of the reasons? I've mentioned just a few, I've just touched a bit of it, but what are the main factors that the judiciary is putting forward as to why we should look at alternative means of conflict resolution?
One key and top on agenda for this is case backlog. You will agree with me that the judiciary, our courts, have for a long time had a good history of case backlog. Because one, understaffing.
Yes.
That you find we don't have enough judges in this country. If you have to look at the judge person ratio, we are far below the belt into that. Then also, you find that the evidence sometimes needed for conviction, the process is a bit longer. Then you also find the cost, that justice is becoming a thing of the rich. Yet when we look at other alternative ways of resolving conflict are cheaper and quite, they expedite these cases. So now the Chief Justice, the judiciary is looking at a fact that why are you bringing everything to us, yet there are other alternative ways of solving conflict that are even in the law. Let me just give you a simple example. When we look at the Local Council Court Act 2006, yes, it gives the local council courts mandates to deal with civil matters ranging from debt, contracts, property damage, trespass, customary matters such as land disputes, family disputes, identification of customary heirs, among others. But today you find that all these are being set to the judiciary. Yet there are those particular cases that these courts are not mandated to handle. So if these performed their work, you'd find that almost 50% of the cases that are in judiciary that go to courts of law can be solved by other ways of handling or conflict resolving. We have family courts. We have religious leaders. What happened to people having disputes and going and handling these within the church? We have traditional courts in Uganda. Here there is a famous court known as Court ya Kisekwa, you know, and other actually clan courts, they are there. But you find that today people are taking everything to the formal courts of the judiciary. At the end of the day, they take long because of the level of evidence required. Because remember, one has to be proved innocent beyond reasonable doubt by a competent court.
Yes.
Now, you need witnesses. You need that process, the DPP finding and all that. Yet, if an LC is to sort an issue, the witnesses are in that community. You stole my chicken, my neighbor saw you, we are going at the LC, we are all people in the same community, no one is fearing. Come to these courts, you tell someone you're needed in court as a witness. Sometimes you have to travel very long distances. And the fear, I'm going to court. This building, the atmosphere, yet there you appointed the entire committee of the LC, or the same people there. Your people, you know, if it is culture or traditional. For example, if you saw what happened in the Kanyamunyu case, we can talk about, because he served his sentence and completed.
Yes.
And he was convicted. And
that's a great example.
So, he did what they call matoput. And here, the good thing with these other alternative courts is they don't usually aim at punishing.
What do they aim at?
But they aim at reaching an amicable understanding and promoting peace.
Okay.
That, for example, Matoput, when you kill someone, they look at ensuring that the spirit of the dead rests in peace. The families also have harmony and peace amongst themselves. That's why they will tell you, give these people this amount of bulls, go and perform, go to the grave and repent for that person, maybe animal blood and all. They seek to ensure there is peace in society.
Okay, Robert, I understand where you're coming from, and the Kanyamunyu case is a good example. But of course, I remember at the time there was debate by Ugandans saying, if we are using traditional courts to sort a murder case, then do we have justice? Can we say that justice has been served? But that question,
let me just quick one answer you. Now, in whose interest is justice?
The family of the deceased.
Someone killed my son. He's arrested and sent to Ruzira to serve a period of years.
Yes.
Yes, someone can rest assured that good he's arrested. What about if someone comes and repents? The system is clear that we can't compensate the dead. Yeah? But this is how much you can give. Let's sit as a community. Let's mourn together. Let's eat together. Let's drink together. Give us some cows of this amount, you know. And that's why sometimes this when is in the ICC, not so?
Yes.
Now, for the people of northern Uganda, whose children, whose mothers and fathers were killed, whose justice are they looking for? Because at the end of the day, even if you arrest Ongen, but if we went through Matoput, he comes and the communities, the elders, they sit, they discuss, these people, whatever small is given to them, I feel there is a way their hearts are compensated.
I still have questions regarding that, but I would like to go to Studio B and loop Joram Paul Sonko into this conversation. Joram, against the background of the case that has been mentioned, that is the one of Kanyamunyu, where Mat Oput was used to settle the case, and it was a murder case, okay? So looking at that, one wonders what types of cases are being sent back for mediation and what criteria is being used to select them.
Oh, and you know, the murder case apparently is not one of those because it's a tough one. I'll start with that.
Yes.
Because it's, you know, it's, I think it's one of those high caliber cases, if I'm to put it in that way. And also looking at the reason as to why some of these cases are being taken back. It is, for example, in Kabale, the chief magistrate has 1,489 cases. Those are pending cases.
Yes.
Now, the reason as to why we have these alternative options is they're looking at issues like family disputes. These are some of the issues that might need mediation.
What kind of family disputes? Because we know they also range.
Okay, now some of the family disputes will include inheritance cases. You know, we've heard of scenarios where families are fighting each other simply because of inheritance or land. That is after maybe the father has passed on and he has left a lot of property where many people are going to start fighting for them. So those are some of the cases that may need or that might need to be settled within families, or, you know, that will actually need family intervention more. There is also one to do with child custody, because these are some of the other cases that are actually also increasing day in, day out in Ugandan courts. Child custody. There is also divorce.
Divorce?
Yes, there is also divorce highlighted somewhere here.
Divorce for mediation?
Family. You know, there is a way where, you know, you do realize that back in the time, families used to come together.
Yes.
The family of the daughter and the family of the son could come together and then decide on the better ways of, let's say, settling the disputes between the two. If, for example, the need is to sit down as a family and try to make sure that these two people get back together, or in the interest of both sides, they have to separate. So that is one of that. Then there is also neighborhood disputes. Now the
My
neighborhood
neighbor
disputes may
used
be
my wire.
exactly. You're in the same estate, and maybe a neighbor beat up your child, and you have such issues, and you don't want to have such issues reported to the police and further extended for because you know when someone takes such an issue to police, they would even over exaggerate it and say this person was doing child abuse. They were over beating my child to make the case look a little bit heavy. And then we also have something to do with you know, small minor financial disputes, like recovery of small debts. Maybe you lent me some money and I've taken time without paying back, so you going to the courts of law would be a little bit harsh on me. So you get to realize that these are some of the other cases as well. Then there is an issue to do with the elderly disputes.
Yes.
Disputes involving elder people, and of course this is also part of the inheritance bit.
Yes.
Where you'll find that at the local council level, elders are having issues amongst themselves. You know, at times with age, there are certain things that happen normally. So these are some of the things you do realize character changes.
Yes.
And someone starts looking at a simple issue as disrespect, and it later turns into something huge.
So Uganda have one small word for that.
Exactly. So the courts kind of realize that some of these cases tend to increase, and you do realize that most of these cases that come or that stem from local government are some minor cases that can be dealt with within the community. And then there is one that is highly debatable, the gender-based disputes, because these ones are growing.
Okay. Gender-based, you mean
like domestic violence?
Okay.
That according to you know, some of the experts within the law feel like this one, for example, gender-based violence, like domestic violence, can be settled within the local council. You know, local council sittings and meetings where different parties are involved to find a solution that is a win-win for for both ends.
I know that's not the issue of conversation here today, because I would there is a different side to that. True. Where there have been claims of going to the police and not getting help when it comes to gender based violence cases, but that's not what we are discussing today. We are looking into the proposal by the judiciary to have alternative means of conflict resolution in a bid to reduce the case backlog that the judiciary is grappling with. Jerome Paul just shared that in Kampala, they have over 1,000 cases in their backlog. And some of these, according to the Chief Justice Alfonso Winnie-Dolo, he says some of these can actually be handled through alternatives and avenues like mediation. So is it really a good stance, or it is the judiciary trying to, you know, not to be weird in a certain kind of way? I'm asking this question because someone might be asking this question out there, and if you're that person, you can share your views through WhatsApp number 0709 602 592. Now, coming to you, Chantal, what would you say are the advantages of having alternative means of conflict resolution like mediation over traditional litigation?
Well, I was listening to the conversation that you were having a few moments ago, and I believe this is something we need to start from. You see, these cases sort of escalate. By the time they get to the courts, people have already exchanged, people have threatened to kill each other. Yet if they had been started from, you know, the onset and settled, say for example through mediation, we wouldn't be having such cases reaching courts of law and taking forever. So for example, some of the advantages, and these are not anywhere close to the complicated advantages you would think. Talk about something being less stressful and faster, which is also, you know, it's faster than going to court. For example, if it's a land dispute, you're going to go to court, and then you have to gather evidence, you have to gather witnesses and any other documents involved in there. You're spending a lot of money and a lot of time. That reduces your stress, that is one. Two, it reduces on the amount of time you're going to be spending on a case. For example, if you had an emergency and you wanted to sell the piece of land and there was a dispute on the land, and then you had to go to court, you see what I'm telling you?
It takes time.
It takes a lot of time. So we're looking at a reduced stress on individuals that seem to be that seem to be involved in some of these cases. Then look at things like have you ever, now we're talking about something that you probably don't expect. Have you ever wanted just an apology from someone but you can't get it? And probably it's the only solution that you could have.
That's true.
And you don't want their money, because if, for example, they beat your child or they cut your person and the arm fell off, are they going to bring, is there any money that will bring back the arm? Probably not. But an apology, which you may not even find in court, because in court they will tell you this person has been sentenced and that's it. And even when they serve their time and come back, you're still bitter and angry. So talk about things like emotionally and mentally, it helps some of these individuals live better in society, because probably all they needed was just an apology. Then talk about things like the fact that mediation is, for example, mediation is a bit more flexible than how things run in court. And even when you go to the layman who didn't even go to school, who can't even afford a lawyer, it gets a lot easier for them to be able to handle issues and get results. Then talk about mutual agreement. Usually when you go to these alternative means of handling cases, instead of going instead of using litigation or going to court, you realize that it's for seeking harmony. It's for mutual agreement and benefit. Although that also leads to a disadvantage in a way, but at least for now, when you focus on the positive, you're looking at things moving a little smoother than when we go to court, because when you go to court, we're going bare knuckles. If people in court, aside from the fact that the law stops them or could inhibit them from fighting, people who go to court in most cases are ready for a fist fight. You go when you're ready. Your lawyer will tell you, literally they'll go when they're armed. Now, in this case, these alternative measures help in keeping harmony in societies. And I think in the long run, it would also help us to actually tone down on some of these cases and live better as societies. And this would be a great deal. So those are some of the advantages that we can look at when it comes to alternative means, instead of going direct into litigation and courts.
Well, thank you, Chantal. Now, the United States handles 95% of their cases through pre-bargaining.
Yep.
And according to some members of the judiciary, like Justice Butera, he says that if we did that, we could handle so many cases in Uganda and justice would be served timely, because you've heard of cases that stay in court for like 7 years. You've never gotten justice, you keep going to court, or sometimes they're like, we don't have a judge to look at this case, the judge was reassigned, redeployed, or something of the sort. So when we use alternative means, though Chirabo touched on one of them, he said mediation, but when we say mediation, who is mediating?
No, there are actually some examples here
that are involved in this mediation.
There are some examples here, Monica, when it comes to mediation.
Yes.
There is religious mediation.
Yes.
Where we have religious leaders mediating, different, cases. And then because of the influence that they have, and because of the fact that many people go to churches and others are attached to various religious denominations, you do realize that religious leaders coming in can also be a solution. Then there is what we call the cultural mediation.
Or customary.
Exactly, the customer, the ones that we've been used to a couple of times. And then there is also traditional arbitration. That is utilizing traditional methods like the Kondla system, where respected community members come together. For example, let's say you've been in the community for 20 years, the elders of the community, you come together, sit down, and then try to come up with a solution basing on, because we all know as old as someone gets, it is believed that they are wise.
Yes.
Yes.
So your choice of words, it is believed.
It is believed.
It is
because
believed.
You can't guarantee.
You can't guarantee.
There is a but.
Because they normally say even
But you see also, Sonko,
the unwise
it
get
comes
old.
with experience. When
Yes.
the more someone grows older,
Yes.
they are able to solve certain disputes, because maybe there are incidents, so they can look at and say, when this happened in such a time, this is our best, or these are the mistakes we made. So they look at the precedents and they're able to do that. But very important here, when we hear the call for people to go for these alternative systems, the big question is, why aren't they going there? Why aren't they opting for these that are quicker, as we have said? They are more in terms of creating harmony and peace. They are cheaper, because religious leaders, I don't believe there's so much you're going to pay them, or traditional leaders or the LC courts to hear or to handle, to resolve these disputes. Why are people not going there?
I do have some answers for you, Chiramo, on your question. And the first answer would be that some of these alternative options are actually not compulsory, and some of them are not law binding. So there is concerns also around the fact that enforceability of the mediation, for example, mediation agreements, is usually not entirely enforceable. It can't be enforced. Then there is also there is a part where all parties must agree to a resolution as the result, and even then it's not guaranteed, because listen, you might walk out of here when we've agreed, okay, I'm going to pay you, you've been demanding me 500,000 Uganda shillings, and when we walk out, we've agreed I'm paying you 2,000 Uganda shillings per week, and you're not satisfied. Yet I'm saying that's what I can manage, and according to the mediator, we've agreed that's what I'm paying, and you're not satisfied. So that could mean that you're likely to take certain steps. You could even carry the law into your own hands.
Yes.
Or you could say, I'm not satisfied here, I need to take it to another court because I feel this is unfair. How do you pay me 2,000 Uganda shillings out of 400,000 and you're paying it to me per week, stuff like that. Then mediation also, it can be difficult. It can be difficult because sometimes people withhold information. You see, when you go to court, you are supposed to give all the information to help the case, one, get solved and get out. But then in most cases, you'll find individuals that withhold information that could have been used. Remember, you're not even under oath. When you go to court, you're under oath. You swear that you're going to tell nothing but the truth. And then in this case, when it comes to these alternative means, how many people have gone to use religious leaders and the leaders have told them first swear by the Bible, for example?
Yes.
Have you heard of that? We haven't. So there is an element of enforceability that is missing in there that is not giving people the results they are looking for, hence leading to escalation of some of these cases that could have been finished from those from these alternative means.
All right, and as we close, Chirabo, in just a few seconds, do you believe that this could be the antidote that will help with the case backlog that we have, or the judiciary has to also have other options? What do you think they need to do to ensure that they reduce the backlog? Well,
we've had these courts, these alternatives, since time immemorial.
Yes.
And at one time they were what we were using totally in the on the African continent. Now, if the judiciary wants these to work, then I think we need a law to better empower them.
Okay.
To better empower them, because as it is today, and the reasons Chantal has given for why people do not go there, you'll find it very hard that people will change. And also the judiciary must, I think this case backlog, there's also a bit of, I'm sorry to say, but the truth is, laziness.
You think so? Because they say they don't have enough magistrates.
We can accept, but the little you have, how many cases are you disposing of? You know?
How many cases does one magistrate or judge handle? Maybe we could start there.
Because you find that all over a time, we've had the various chief justices, whenever they meet during their annual conference, every year they have a judicial conference, they tell them, but please, much as we are few, we need to expedite, we need to look at how many cases. They must have a target, and a judge who doesn't meet this target, what is happening?
Well, Jerome Paul, as the clock is ticking, what's your last remark?
Well, my last remark is that it will be a little bit concerning. I think the chances are we might as well have increase in crime rate. Why? Because you see, there is also some fear that criminals have when you mention something to do with the court. Now, if we have so many of these cases being solved on a community level, And I'm not saying that we shouldn't look for alternative disputes, but you will realize that some people will continue doing whatever they're doing because they know maybe society may even favor them. Because, you know, there are some cases where in the community, when they're doing the mediation, they would say, all we want is that person to just leave our society and go somewhere else. Or you move bitu mukoye. So if at all we continue having, if we have so many alternative, you know, dispute resolutions put in place, my fear is we may have some increase in crime somehow because there will be some laxity. You know, the courts of law kind of create fear for even the big boys in the industry.
Okay,
How
I
about
hear you.
we-
I hear
how
you
about
on
we
that.
merge the two?
Chantal,
Yes.
I would like to hear your question, but the time is of the essence, and I won't allow to hear that question, unfortunately. But regarding the case, the alternative ways of resolving disputes, I have a few comments coming through from our viewers, and I would like to share some of those. And the first one says, good morning, Uganda. Thanks for the discussions on alternative dispute resolution today. There are cases that police throws to LCs. How is that working, especially in the light of corrupt officials? Secondly, any justice system aims to be a deterrent. Imagine one commits murder and all you suggest is for people to sit together, drink and pay cows. Like, is this dowry? That's the question he's asking. And he says, look at today's challenges where people are committing all sorts of terrible crimes. He shares some concerns that Jerome Paul has shared. And this one says, thanks for the show. I'm watching from Bujiri district. Every society has its traditional way of solving conflict and disputes. What we need is to recognize them, shape them. This can bring quick justice and even reduce on cost of handling cases in courts. This is from Muzungu Joseph. Thank you, Joseph. And this one says, good morning, thanks for the show. I'm called Kato Magola Latif. To me, the judiciary is trying to encourage people to appreciate the indigenous modes of dispute resolution. Before Uganda was colonized by the British, who introduced this common law system of court system, we Africans had our dispute resolution mechanisms. Lastly, the only issue with our alternative dispute resolution mechanisms like mediation, that is cultural and indigenous, are not binding onto the parties, which makes their settlement unenforceable. And Chantal was of this same view. Now, the last one I'll share, he says cases have been blown out of proportion because of commercialization of cases. And he goes on to say most people who take cases to court look at financial compensation rather than psychological justice. Let non-capital cases be handled through mediation by LCs, cultural courts and churches. This is from Dixon Munanuzi from Charlie Wajala in Namugongo. Thank you so much for your views, but this is where we will end. The conversation continues, and good morning. The conversation continues online, and Good Morning Uganda continues. Irene Allen Namisango with the Good Morning Uganda Tourism Express is up next.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years.
Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't go.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
UPC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much for sticking around. This is the GMU Tourism Express, where we talk about anything that you need to know about Uganda's tourism. Well, my good name is Erin Alenamisang, and we take you through tourism, talking about anything that you need to know about the world of travel in Uganda's tourism. And well, today, or this week, we've been dissecting through the tourism queens, Miss Tourism, the pageantries that we have in the country, to see how are they really promoting Uganda's tourism, how are they really working in line with the themes that they come up with every year. And today, we are glad to have Zakia Lucky, the Assistant Projects Coordinator from Miss Tourism Uganda. And she's here to dissect through the theme of Miss Tourism Uganda. This year's theme is Tourism and Peace. It is quite an interesting theme that when you talk about tourism and peace, how are we using tourism to promote peace, or how is peace promoting tourism? I don't know whether it is the other way or this way, tourism promoting peace or peace promoting tourism. But the good thing is that today we have Zakia Lucky in the studio with me, and she's going to dissect so deeper into this theme, and we shall get to understand more about the theme. Zakia Lucky, how are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you.
It is nice to have you here. How do you feel this morning?
It feels great. It's quite a cold morning, but yeah, feel great. Thank you.
That is nice. Now, Zakia Lucky, this year's theme for Miss Tourism Uganda, it is tourism and peace.
Yes.
It is an interesting one when you think about it, but the viewers would want to know that why this theme?
Thank you so much. First of all, my name is Zakia Lucky. I'm the Assistant Projects Coordinator at Miss Tourism Uganda. Tourism and peace, these two coexist. So for these two to coexist in the pageant world as Miss Tourism Uganda, we cannot live in an environment that is full of conflict. So that is why we address it, and this also happens to actually be an international theme for World Tourism Day. Yes, so tourism and peace is the best way I can address it is where there is peace in a community. I'm trying to keep it basic for people to really understand this. Where there is peace in a community, free of conflict, it gives people trust to come and visit the country, both local and international tourists, to feel secure in our country. So, which is why, as a pageant, we came up to address this, adding up to what the theme at the World International Day is.
When you talk about tourism and peace, my mind goes to how do we use tourism to promote peace? Or it is the other way around, using peace to promote tourism? Okay.
So what we can do in communities is we can come up with projects. For example, cleanup projects, planting trees. Someone out there would be wondering, how do these connect in peace? But we know when we have a green environment, there's a way it affects also our mind of thinking, productivity, and also the business actually in our country. Because if we're living in a country full of conflict, business is affected. The costs that we're spending on what conflict is, associated with. So we can do community engagement on how to teach people first aid skills to come in when we have conflict in community or accidents or anything. So when people are skilled with first aid skills, they're able to help in community.
What do you think? I need to understand this question. I think I'm just still failing to, we are just still failing to understand each other. What do you think is the impact? Okay, of course we are using peace to promote tourism, but do you think there are also ways that tourism has also promoted peace in these communities? Because there are circumstances where Uganda Wildlife Authority has had issues with conflicts between the human and wildlife conflicts, and communities are fighting the national parks. they're fighting these game reserves. Maybe wildlife goes to the communities and they eat up their gardens or what. Do you think in some way tourism has also promoted peace in these communities?
You know, tourism is quite large, and it involves people, nature, and when these coexist, it brings the togetherness. You're able to work together. So in that way, it's promoting peace. When we talk about, for example, you visit a place like Chigezi, you're taking business to hotels. So in that way of exiting with people, nature,
together,
learning the rich cultural heritage in that particular area, it bonds togetherness. And when there is, you know, that togetherness within all of you, then it's so easy to coexist and learn from each other and see how to do things together.
Then I also think maybe when communities also earn something, maybe an investor goes to Chigezi to put up a hotel, people are working in the hotels, they're employed. It also somehow brings in some peace when people start to understand the impact of tourism to their communities.
Yeah, sure, because most of these projects that people work together out, it's just a bigger number. So that is where the togetherness comes in. Yeah, so if you're probably talking to people about first aid, it's a big number that you're reaching out this message to, you're working together.
What are some of the innovations or initiatives that Miss Tourism Uganda, maybe we call them projects, that Miss Tourism Uganda is currently taking on in line with this theme?
It's taking on the Let the Pearl Shine project, which is about keeping the country clean. We've visited all the regions in the country, actually, sensitizing and doing cleanup activities, road safety, especially during festive seasons where we encourage people not to drink and drive, drive carefully, and first aid itself.
Wow.
Yeah, recently we had a space on X about first aid, and we're teaching people why it's important for us to have these skills in community, schools. Yeah, so those are some of the projects.
Okay, why do you think, because for you, you've been a beauty queen before, a tourism queen before, and you're now the assistant projects coordinator at Miss Tourism Uganda. Why do you think that girls should really engage in these pageants? Yeah.
So Miss Tourism is a very fantastic platform that I believe every girl has so much to learn from, starting with the confidence, how to express yourself, connections. I met you through, as a beauty queen.
Sure.
So there's quite a number of things that we learn from this. It's not just catwalking like people do. So if we engage in activities also like Let the Pearl Shine, road safety, we're using this platform to pass a voice and advocate for these things and talk to people about this. It makes you an inspiration to other young people or even the public. Yeah, and Uganda as a country needs so much of the creativity and innovation of young people.
So Zakia, you're saying that as a tourism queen, you become like an ambassador, or you advocate for different tourism initiatives that are being carried on in the country.
Yes.
And now that with your theme as Miss Tourism Uganda, Tourism and Peace, what are your last words to the viewers?
I'll actually use this opportunity to send out a message to young people that are carelessly using social media with writing bad stories about the country, but we can as well use these social media spaces to talk about the beauty we have in our country, the rich cultural heritage, beautiful landscapes, our home hospitality. So let's use these platforms very well, and let's add up voices preaching out to how we can promote tourism in these communities for tourism to thrive.
Thank you so much. It was nice having you, Zakia, and thank you so much for coming by for the show, for these beautiful words. Well, that is it that we heard from Zakia Lucky, the assistant projects coordinator at Miss Tourism Uganda. But how are we going to be able to use tourism to promote peace in the country? First of all, as she has said, engaging communities to know their benefits. How are they benefiting from the tourism sector? If you know that the tourism sector employs some of your relatives, you'll definitely have to keep pace in the country. If you know that you're earning or feeding your family with some of the earnings from the tourism industry, you'll definitely have to keep pace in the country. But also going to the digital world, like she has mentioned, the digital world, using the online spaces. We need to use the online spaces to promote peace. In our country, it is so unfortunate that when something bad happens in the tourism sector, that those news, it will headline the news, like the different newspapers and news, online news, but when something good happens, you see that these are not usually talked about. We need to see that we talk more about the beauty, the good things that are happening in Uganda's tourism sector other than the bad things that are really happening. That way we are going to be promoting more peace in the country amongst us and also attracting more tourists to come into the country. Thank you for watching, and coming up is Joan Paul Sonko with a business update.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years.
Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. It's now time for us to check into the world of business. I am Joan Paul Sonko. Now, we're starting in from the world of telecommunications and technology, because yesterday the president met with a team of investors, that is from the Laika mobile telephone company, during their courtesy visit to State House in Entebbe. Led by their chairman, Subsikaran Ali Raja, the delegation included the Minister of Information and Communications Technology, National Guidance, that is Dr. Chris Bariomonsi, and the Executive Director of the Uganda Communications Commission, George William Nyombi Thembo, and Julian Mwehere, Director of Industry Affairs and Content Development at the Uganda Communications Commission, stated that the purpose of the delegation's visit to State House was to express their gratitude to President Museveni for the support provided to the company in launching its services in Uganda. Now, since commencing its operations in the country in 2022, Laika Mobile has successfully acquired 1 million subscribers, according to the chairman. And Subaskaran assured the president that they are here to offer cheap services which are affordable to all Ugandans, especially when it comes to the internet connection. And the meeting was also attended by the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Okello Oryem, who joined in the discussions. And you get to realize that since 2022, when Laika came into the country, many Ugandans have been opting for it as the better service provider for internet, as it offers cheaper internet, the cheaper cost. But of course, many have been having concerns about its rate of connectivity, especially if you go to upcountry areas. But yesterday, they had a meeting with the president to further reassure him of how far they intend to go in regards to offering telecommunication services besides the internet, and making sure that internet connectivity is also something that they will prioritize in the year where we are heading into more understanding of Uganda's digital transformation journey. Remember, last year, the government launched the digital transformation campaign that will be geared towards 2027. The digital transformation roadmap from 2024 to 2027. 3 years of seeing that the entire country is connected digitally and that many of the Ugandans are also making good use of the internet and going digital in all the sectors of the economy. Now, elsewhere, away from that, we now talk oil exploration and oil shipment. As the government officially commenced the direct importation of refined petroleum products, that is through the Mombasa port in Kenya. Now, the first oil consignment of petrol was received yesterday morning by the Energy Mineral Development Minister, Honorable Ruth Nankabira, at the new Chimpemvo oil terminal in Mombasa. That port received the oil consignment by 7 a.m. yesterday at Mombasa port, and it's the vessel carrying it was the vessel carrying Uganda's first ever direct oil consignment. Remember, back in the time we were getting oil through middlemen, and that means we were supposed to have dealings with Kenya in order to receive our oil. Now, the Liberian flagged off ship was carrying 58,000 metric tons of petrol, and it was escorted by Chiboko 2 and Simba 2, the boats that guided it to its docking point. And besides that, the minister began by performing a symbolic gesture of welcoming the oil shipment as a commercial entity formed to represent Uganda's commercial interest in the petroleum sector. Uganda's National Oil Company Limited, that is UNOC, is now the mandated importer of petroleum products for Uganda. While it's a sigh of relief for Uganda's oil subsector, it has also come a long way, and it has been long overdue, if that is the right word for me to use this time around, because Muhammad Liban, the principal secretary for the State Department of Petroleum in Kenya, revealed that the Kenyan government should not be entirely blamed for the difficulties of importing oil into the region, as much as it has been highlighted. Now, lastly, we talk matters the Anti-Counterfeit Bill 2023. Now, last year, the Anti-Counterfeit Bill was further tabled, and Honorable Asuman Basalira successfully secured a leave to ensure that he goes out there to make further consultations on how effective this bill will be. And of course, with the consultations, 4 regions were covered, with the latest of those being the central region, which was yesterday in Kampala. 4 regions of that: the northern region, the central, the eastern and western regions. That is what the consultations have been able to cover with the Anti-Counterfeit Network, led by the chairman, that is Councillor Fred Muwema. Now, when you also look at the 4 regions that have been covered in regards to the consultations, 9 districts have held these consultations for the Anti-Counterfeit Bill. Now, looking at it strongly, the last phase of that of the public consultation was yesterday, and in attendance were members of parliament, and then also different stakeholders from the private sector, including those from the government, URA, URSB, and then URA, URSB, as well as Uganda National Bureau of Standards, because all of these are entities that are entirely involved in the value chain. Now, the next step is to take the views of the various stakeholders into considerations and make changes to the bill before the mover of the bill, Honorable Asuman Basalira, presents it for the first reading in Parliament, after which it would be sent to the respective committee for scrutiny. Now, over the years, you get to realize that many of the various stakeholders within Uganda's economy have been facing quite a number of difficulties, especially those in the private sector, when it comes to competing with counterfeit products on the market. Remember, if you're producing genuine products, at times it becomes very difficult for the consumers to differentiate, because the funny bit about the counterfeit products, they come at a cheaper price than the genuine products. And that is why you can easily see Madam Prudence Ukonika, who was sharing with us that in most cases they face a huge challenge to compete favorably with the counterfeit, because one, they come at a cheaper, and at times it even makes it worse. If people get to realize that it's now a counterfeit, then it makes the market quite difficult for those who are dealing in the genuine products, because then you're losing confidence of the clients who would have bought products from you simply because they're already biased after maybe sampling a counterfeit product that does look like yours. But what we shall wait to see how far the bill goes, and will it now become law, because in 2009 a similar kind of bill was tabled in Parliament, but again it did not reap as much as many of the stakeholders expected. That is why we have further consultations ongoing for the bill that was presented by Asuman Basalirwa last year in 2023. Well, that does it for our news this morning, but let's look at the forex markets to see how various currencies are faring on the exchange. For those of you who are heading out to exchange some currencies, the US dollar yesterday opening time was buying at 3,696.59 shillings, while selling at 3,706.59 shillings. Now, closing time, the US dollar was buying at 3,688.55, while selling at 3,698.55. The Great Britain pound was then buying at 4,677.82, while selling at 4,690.50. The euro was buying at 3,961.50, while selling at 3,972.24. The Kenyan shilling was by opening time buying at 28.70, while selling at 28.78. The Tanzanian shilling was buying at 1.39 shillings while selling at 1.4 shillings. And then opening time, the South African rand yesterday was buying at 198.22 shillings while selling at 198.76 shillings. Please do note that there would be some changes this morning if you're moving to the forex exchange. That is courtesy of the Bank of Uganda though. Chantal Oliver Kaninda is here with the traffic updates. I'll be back on Monday with the business news. However, Good Morning Uganda continues. Good morning.
Good morning once again, and thank you for sticking around. Let's get you to town today. If you are using Old Chira Road, you're coming from Tinda, you're coming from Nigeria, Chiwatule, Chisasi, and you're using Tinda Road, you're using Chira Road, using Bukoto Chira Road. This is the route that we are going to be looking at. But as you can see on your screen, you are actually safe to move. There is no traffic on the Old Chira Road, even on the holdups like the junction that is coming from Chigobe Road. You are safe to move. There is nothing much for you to worry about. Traffic is it's really okay. There is no traffic, as you can see all the way downwards. The only time you will be finding slow movement will be at the junction that has UMC. After that, you are safe to move. As you can see, everything is smooth. If you are coming from Tinda, coming from Nigeria, coming from Chira. And the only time you will be finding traffic is going to be at the Chira Road lights, the ones in the middle here, because of the junction that connects you to Corporation Rise. Otherwise, when you continue on Chira Road, you are safe to move, and until you get to the junction that has Chira Road Police Station, you will still be finding no traffic. However, if someone is joining that very junction from Lugogo bypass, then you will be finding slow movement, but after that there is pretty much nothing for you to worry about. You are safe to move. Lugogo bypass as well is safe to navigate. You will be having a smooth flow of movement. There is nothing like a hold up, nothing like slow movement, and you are safe to move. Now when we join what we call the Ginger Road, from the junction that has Lugogo shopping mall, you will be finding no traffic still, except except for someone who is coming from town, but still there's just slow movement. Otherwise, you are safe to move. 1 per clock tower, which is usually mad with a lot of traffic, is safe for you to navigate right now. all the way through Ginger Road, and as you're making your way to town, Kampala Road, you will be finding no traffic. Now, when we check on Access Road, there's just slow movement, especially brought by the junction that takes you to Station Road. Otherwise, everything is safe, and you are today you are safe to move, especially at this time. But I cannot guarantee that in the next 15-20 minutes you will be finding the same kind of free movement. As of now, Colville Street is safe to navigate. You are okay to move that. Nile Avenue is okay for you to navigate as well. You'll be finding no traffic whatsoever on any of these roads that I am telling you. I'm actually trying to look for a road right now that is mad with traffic so that I can give you maybe a heads up, but I cannot seem to find any at the moment. So I would say if you're moving right now, whichever route you are using, you are safe to move. But in the next few minutes, I cannot guarantee that you will not be caught by traffic. And well, that's it for our traffic updates this morning. Agenda is coming up next. Stick with us.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
He expected me to die like within the first 2 years.
Out of the blue, the child will get pains, especially in the wrists. And this happens commonly when children are starting to walk.
Was brought to you by
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby, don't know.
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 5-minute voice bundle for only 1,000, or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily, or use the MyMTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
Nyati Moja Pictures brings you Pamoja to a town or city near you between July and December this year. Don't miss Uganda's beautiful stories from east to west, north to south in Tuko Pamoja.
Uganda as we see it today had a name. It had the regions that make it.
The battle for protecting the sovereign Uganda was lost in Dokolo.
Uganda, fortunately for us, is a confluence of all these races, the races of Africa.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
Genetically, we are even similar people.
We are one. Use that word, Pamoja.
To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Juko. Yo. Wachikuwa. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss a critical topic that could potentially save lives. The top 10 signs of a heart attack. It's crucial to be aware of these warning signals and act promptly. Before we start, please remember that this information is not a substitute for professional medical advice. If you suspect a heart attack, seek emergency medical attention immediately. Number 1. Chest pain or discomfort. The most common symptom of a heart attack is chest pain or discomfort. It may feel like squeezing, fullness, pressure, or pain in the center of the chest. This sensation can last for more than a few minutes or may come and go. Number 2. Shortness of breath. Shortness of breath is another significant sign. If you're having difficulty breathing or experiencing sudden and unexplained shortness of breath, it could be a warning signal. Number 3, upper body discomfort. Pain or discomfort in the arms, neck, jaw, back, or stomach can also be indicative of a heart attack. Pay attention to any unusual discomfort in these areas. Number 4, nausea or vomiting. Some people may experience nausea or vomiting during a heart attack. If you're feeling sick to your stomach without an apparent cause, consider it a potential warning sign. Number 5, cold sweats. Sudden cold sweats, clammy skin, or a feeling of lightheadedness can be signs that your heart is under stress. Don't ignore these symptoms. They may indicate a heart attack is underway. Number 6, fatigue. Unexplained and extreme fatigue, especially if it's not related to physical exertion, can be a subtle but important sign of a heart attack. Listen to your body and take it seriously. Number 7, dizziness or fainting. If you experience dizziness or faint, it could be due to insufficient blood flow to the brain, a potential consequence of a heart attack. Seek medical attention if this occurs. Number 8, irregular heartbeat. Irregular heartbeats or palpitations can be another warning sign. If you notice your heart racing or beating irregularly, it's important to get it checked out. Number 9, indigestion-like symptoms. Sometimes symptoms such as indigestion, heartburn, or stomach discomfort can be misleading and be signs of a heart attack. Be aware of the context and any additional symptoms. Number 10, anxiety or a feeling of impending doom. Intense anxiety or a sense of impending doom without an obvious cause can also be a warning sign of a heart attack. Trust your instincts and seek help if you feel something is wrong. Remember, time is of the essence during a heart attack. If you or someone around you experiences these symptoms, call emergency services immediately. Early intervention can make a significant difference. Stay informed, stay safe, and take care of your heart. This program is produced by Sani Production, powered by UBC TV, inspiring Uganda. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, it is time for Agenda on Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najima with Chirabo Robert Nyonyintono and Joram Paul Sonko. Now, when you hear the word infrastructure development and you live in Kampala and you have seen the state of our roads in Kampala Metropolitan, this is a sentence that would excite you, or it would cause you to actually grieve about the many or the days and weeks you might spend driving through dusty roads under the guise of construction. Or maybe it is actually a vote of confidence for agencies like UNRA that finally they are working on some key roads in the city. Or you could actually be excited that finally KCCA has heard the cry of you as a Ugandan, and now they are going to work on some of the roads and other infrastructure around the city that has been wanting. Well, today on agenda, we talk about infrastructure development, and also this is against the backdrop that Kampala Capital City Authority is set to phase out 27 traditional roundabouts and construct 27 signalized junctions. You've seen where they have put signalized junctions, like at Fairway, like at Chira Road, and you see that there is smooth flow of traffic when you reach these areas, vis-a-vis the areas that have roundabouts. There was a point where we had roundabouts at the Northern Bypass, and the traffic menace, the traffic jam menace that we used to experience is long forgotten after they put the signalized stops, like let's say in Nalia, that you will never find the traffic jam that we used to find at Kalere. So there is good work being done, and this is what KCCA says is going to be done going forward. So now this brings our conversation today. Chirabo, you used to see the traffic jam in Kalere, Bwaise, Nalia, because of the roundabouts. And now we are being told that even Chaliwajala, you see the connection from Chira to Chaliwajala, that one, we are going to have a bridge there, and two, that we are going to have traffic lights. Now, when you think about the traffic jam that comes from Namugongo and the chaos that is usually around the Chaliwajala center, do you feel like KCCA is finally taking a walk in the right direction?
Well, first, this is not the first time that KCCA is giving us this information.
Okay.
I remember last year hosting Simon Kasiate, and he talked about how they have secured funds, how they're going to do this. I hope this time we live to see it happen. However, I must commend them for the job well done, where we have been able to have the changes, removing roundabouts, which are old-fashioned, more time consuming, and they lead to traffic in one way or the other. Now when you have traffic lights, they better do it. But my concern is you bring on new infrastructure, but the biggest challenge that KCCA has is the little maintenance budget. Because even the new infrastructure that they are putting on board, what do we have in terms of maintaining it?
Is it new infrastructure or improvement of what we already have? Because the roads are already in existence.
When we look at the fact that you had a funny roundabout in a place, old-fashioned traffic lights, because these are better off than what we have. So in one way, I may call it new infrastructure, and the nature of the roads. But the challenge is, because you do not have a good budget for maintenance, it only leaves a very short time, and people go into a position of now dodging holes and creating more danger than even what was there previously. When you're moving out of Kampala, you will enjoy these very wonderful roads. Actually, if you are dozing and you're coming from up country, what would awaken you that you've reached Kampala is the bumpy roads.
Yes.
Yet throughout, because I think these are taken over by UNRA, they have proper and fairly good maintenance plans for these roads. So how highways, even if a pothole develops today, and some of them, you'll find that there is a group that will come to maintain that road and goes on smoothly. So I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm eager to see this come to play, but my biggest worry and concern is how are we going to maintain the good infrastructure that we are seeing KCCA, we are seeing our government constructing day by day. Because for a short period, a road has been worked on, then the next day, you don't see this. You wonder the billions we spent on this road, you know, if in a very short time the road is going to go to the dogs and we don't have a maintenance plan or enough funds to maintain this road, you rather have little and maintain than going more advanced and fail to maintain. Look at the rate of vandalization.
True. And you know, when you mentioned...
You have these lights in a short time, then the next year the batteries, these solar batteries, were stolen from them.
And you know, when you mention on maintenance, by the way, Chirabo, it takes me back to some of the things that we had that were showcasing the beauty of Kampala just about 8 years ago, when we were still holding the Kampala City Festival. If you remember well, around Watoto Church, there was a fountain.
Very beautiful.
A very beautiful fountain.
And we spent a lot of money on it.
Even when you slope down here around Garden City, there was a similar kind of you know, simple fountain. But when it comes to the maintenance, one may wonder if you happen to go to around Watoto Church now, where there was a former fountain, you would even wonder whether we are maintaining the things that have been there for just a period, not even 10 years, because that thing hasn't spent there, it didn't really spend there 10 years.
The one outside Watoto
Church. And it's normal. So now you get back to our drainage system. Now this is where the biggest worry is. Besides even the maintenance of the roads, you look at the drainage system. Every time you look at the state of the Kampala roads, you do realize that either our roads were never on plan initially, or there was a change of plan, and when the plans were made, no one made sure that they follow up. Because look, for example, around Ginger Road, when it rains heavily,
yes,
everyone is worried about, you know, the flooding that that occurs there. Most drivers are always rushing just to make sure that they reach their destinations before it starts raining heavily. Why? Because they know the drainage systems are going to be overpowered, or we simply have no drainage systems around the city. And imagine how many routes Ginger Road alone connects you to.
Yes.
In Kampala.
Yes.
It takes you to Ginger, it's taking you to Nakawa, Kololo, Namugongo, it's taking you to Namuongo, Chibuli. I think it's one of those routes where you're heading to most parts of the of Kampala and the suburbs.
Yes.
But you realize even the business people use the same route. Let's say the trucks are using the same route, industrial area, they are using the same route. But you look at the drainage system, you look at the potholes alone, and then you wonder, every time we touch on this road, we have an issue with the other roads.
So, Joram, are you saying that before we even consider doing away with these 27 roundabouts, how about we maintain and also upgrade the roads that we already have in certain areas like Ginger Road?
Because you also look at some of the roundabouts, they want to also try to put maybe traffic lights to try to control the traffic, because the roundabouts are at times make it very difficult to even manage traffic.
True.
If you've been observant enough, it becomes difficult. But what we also need, like you've mentioned, how about if we look back at the plan we had? Okay, maybe the times have changed, but clearly back in the time we had a clear plan, or infrastructure developments were always on a clear plan before everything was drawn out. You look at some buildings, for example, let me even take the discussion to what is happening in Lubigi, where we're having evictions. You do realize that some buildings were on plan. People paid what they are supposed to pay. They even had licenses from the authorities. Even NEMA had, because some people who are evicted claim that even NEMA knew about these cases. Now it takes us back to what is happening in Kampala, that in most cases you realize that where there's supposed to be a road reserve, there is either a building somewhere, and then that means it's eliminating the chance for, let's say, a road having a drainage system. Now, if we are to maintain, we have to start maintaining roads that were there during the colonial days, because we still have those roads. And the beauty about it is that those roads are still functioning well. Or let's say, I think the builders then were really genuine with what they were doing, and I'm not throwing shade to the current contractors we have today.
But the truth has to be spoken if there is anything in that.
When you look at most of the roads that have been there during the post-colonial era, most of those roads, even up to today, For example, the Entebbe when you're using Chibuye Kajans Entebbe,
yes.
that road alone, when you look at some of the maintenance works that have been there, it clearly shows you that if we continue doing the same in Kampala, maintenance can work.
The same quality, so that it brings up the question of quality.
Yes.
And also it also brings up the question of who does the construction. Is that who gets these contracts to do these roads? What is the criteria for one getting the, is it called a tender, to do the road? Is it being followed to the T, or there are gray areas therein?
Well, Joram has just taken me to an area I was trying to resist not to speak about. Recently one time had what we called the Chogam roads.
Yes.
If you remember, when we were going to host the Commonwealth Summit in Uganda, there were some roads that were worked on. Recently we had the NAM roads. When you're having this summit here, the NAM and G's.
If you're approaching Serena, Yubos,
there were a number of roads. I will give you one example. We knew very well that if our delegates are going to Munyonyo, and some have slept in Serena, Kampala, and others will maybe come to. So we were very, very clever and wise.
In the
we beautified the road to Munyonyo through there, come to Mukwano, and some work is still going on. Now, it is painful to say that some of these roads have already begun having potholes and cracks here and there. So, the best thing is, how do we maintain the little that we have? You know, sometimes it's very bad to chew more than you can be able to bite more than you can be able to chew and eventually swallow, and maybe for your stomach to digest. Now, this is where I have a challenge. That for me, I believe, if we focus more on maintenance, because Cassia will tell you we need to beautify the city, we have a lot of traffic jam, you know. Now,
but that is true.
We have a lot of traffic jam, we need to beautify the city. But you see, the issue for me, the issue of traffic jam solving as one of the areas that the traffic lights, when you remove these roundabouts, it is because we've not looked at the critical feeder roads to work upon. Because I'll tell you, almost every busy road, there could be alternative routes. I'm just going to move out of Kampala and give you an example. All vehicles heading to Entebbe had to use the main road from Chibuye, then you take that route. Now, they worked on Bunamwaya, Ngobe, Kajansi. There's that road that you take and you're able to arrive somewhere along the Entebbe road.
But you realize that
they
worked, maintenance works.
Yes, they worked. We have the Entebbe Express that now I can use if I'm going to say Entebbe and I stay in Machinge. I just have to take that Munyonyo, then I'm on the Express.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be on this main road in Entebbe. If I'm going somewhere around Reza, I can go, and I'm this side of Machinge, I can just go via Wankukuku, Bunamwaya, then I'm around there. So there are those other roads which I believe the cost of working on them to reduce traffic, to be diversions, that we do not concentrate on one area. If we could have our priority there, because 27 roundabouts, if you look at the budget of these, working on these roundabouts, perfecting them, putting all the luxurious infrastructure, modern state-of-art traffic lights and all that. What if we say, let's look at what are those roads that can decongest?
I hear what you're saying, Chirabo, and you've used good examples.
Chirabo, the beauty about having these, roundabouts eliminated is they want to control the flow of traffic also. It has also become a very huge problem in Kampala. That you realize that with the roundabouts, you can easily see, even with the best example. I know you've used this roundabout pretty often, the one around Garden City. There's a lot of kavuyo or a lot of chaos
during peak hours.
Yes, peak hours in the evening there, especially when people are now rushing to go back home or people are leaving office. There's a lot. Someone can spend 2 hours there.
And yet, if you are at fairway lights, that it's going to be a different experience. or Chira Road. Yes. But he did have a point when he said decongest by having more feeder roads. He used some examples along Entebbe Road, and I also have some examples. For instance, if you're going to Chira, you can use Kulambiro. You can decide to go through Ntinda, Chisas Road, then Kulambiro, or you can just decide to use Bukoto and you will get there. Or you can go through Najera, or you can go through Nalia. And those are beautiful roads that have been worked on over the years.
To estates or to residential.
So what happens is when you concentrate on these other outlets, you reduce the traffic that comes at this particular point.
So, Chirawo, be that as it may, there is also the other point, and I think that's what Jeremy is also driving at. Because in as much as you want the feeder roads, we still need, because we still have a lot of congestion in the city itself. And this is what UNRA or KCCA is looking at. How do we ensure that Ugandans don't lose more hours in traffic jam?
We lose a lot of productivity.
Exactly. And also air pollution.
Yes.
As you are in the traffic jam. So how can the two things can be right? The feeder roads and the removing of roundabouts. So how can both be done in a way that benefits every single Ugandan?
The first and foremost, we need to scrutinize these budgets. I've spoken to a few experts in the construction industry, and there's always this comparison of how much we spend in construction of roads in Uganda vis-a-vis what our neighbors spend. One will talk about geographic, landscaping, materials, but I wonder why it is believed and said, and of course research shows, that our costs are much higher.
And yet our roads are much worse.
I don't know about
is that what you're saying?
No, forget about the quality. But for me, I look at how much are we spending on a kilometer. No, I don't want to go into quality. How much are we spending on a kilometer of a road? How much is Kenya? How much is Rwanda? How much is Tanzania spending?
When you look at the region.
When you look at the region. So first, we must have value for money.
Okay.
We must ensure that our costs for road construction are really in tandem with what they should be, therefore giving us more. Who knows if the 27 we are talking about, we could maybe even get 30 or 40 out of that. Value for money. Then must also ensure quality. Quality of what we are doing. Looking at some of the NAM roads, good enough now we have the UPDF Engineering Brigade helping around in a few roads in the city. At least I've come across them working on some of the roads. But quality of our roads, they will tell you that there are roads we do for a short period of time. You know, one time I was being represented by an engineer.
For a short period of time, meaning
the longevity. That is, they are working on this road.
Because they are short of the budget.
Because they are short of budget, so they will do something to be there for some period of time.
Doesn't that, in the end, make it even more expensive to have that road? Because if it's, let's say, for 10 years, so in 10 years, you're going to still find money to do the same thing you would have done before,
and you see,
and do it well.
You see, the other worry is we have so many unfinished projects. When you pass via Nakawa heading to Chireka, from I think from the bonds in Nakawa, that is where there was a road that was being reconstructed. I think that road was being reconstructed.
Some were overhill.
So what happened is that the layer of tarmac stops at one of the bonds in Nakawa. So from that bond, moving on to Chireka, moving on to Shell Chireka, you do realize that there are only 2 layers of stones that were laid. I don't know whether that is the right language to even use in the construction world, but that is what that is what you can observe. So if you even happen to use, let's say, border on that route, you will find a lot of dust. So, you know, in one of the conversations I was having with one of our drivers here, you know, the driver was asking, how do you drive on a smooth road, and then in between
there is bumpy.
It's not even bumpy. It's you're back to Maram.
And it's not a new road where they are saying that we have not yet gotten permission, or the owner of the land is still
members
not
of parliament
giving up
went
the
there
land
last year to even tour the same road. Remember that the refurbishment of the Ginger Road that we were talking about.
Yes.
But even up to today, you get to realize that the project did not get complete, and the chances are, the more this kind of Maram is still there, it is also going to be cutting into the next
budget.
So that means
now
we're
that
going
is
to
what I talk about.
So Jerome, do you think, Chirabo, just a minute, do you think that we could be getting maybe Kampala Capital City Authority or Uganda National Roads Authority? But let's look at the issue of budgets. Who is funding these projects? I beg your pardon. And could it be that they are constrained, that's why, financially constrained, that's why they cannot carry out certain works to the satisfaction of Ugandans? Let's say, like Jerome says, that road in Chireka. Do you think so?
It's just like you eat a burger and in between there is a big gap.
So could it be a case of budget constraints?
Well, I don't want to believe it's a case of budget constraints when you have such work. Because most of the times KCC has appeared before committees of parliament, and also when even UNRA, when you look at the road sector, and issues of contractors have come up. We've had issues a contractor was not able to accomplish in the times set. The technicalities
but
they
the contractors
present,
also claim that it's because the people who contracted
sometimes they look at
paid
issues of weather. They will tell you by the time we anticipated this, then we look at issues of manpower, and there's an excuse that came. I don't know when we are going to be over it. COVID-19. You know, we had planned this, but because still surfaces in serious discussions of accountability, and you wonder what impact. So because some of these roads are secure loans.
I understand
from the Africa
that,
Development
but let's
Bank.
agree that in as much as it's been 4 years since COVID-19, it's really set us back. So you will still hear conversations where that word is going to suffice. Because we are still paying.
Last time when we had the deputy ED of KCCA, he revealed to us that they had asked for 8 billion. And then, because the government treasury was short of funds, they only received 2 billion. Now, when you receive that money, that is not even half what you asked for. So the chances
So what
are
are you going to do with that money?
you can't do a lot with that. Because with that 2 billion, you're entirely covering everything.
So Sonko, you're in a way answering my question
Why do you want to be everywhere?
Constraints.
No, why do you want to be everywhere? Yet nowhere.
No,
yet nowhere, because
you've tabled what you want to
for
use.
the little you've gotten. Have we had quality?
That is the bigger question.
With the little you have, prove to us that I got very little money.
But I worked on this.
But I worked on this. I worked on this. Than telling us I had very little money, so I just decided to
do lackluster work.
To do lackluster work on the disguise of a little budget. Because when you do shoddy work, even us who would be voices will end up castigating you. I want to look at a road like Tintinda Chisasi. They say, but to be honest, with the little money they got, they were able to perfect this. The drainage is superb, the lightening is superb. So why don't we advocate for more funds so that we get better? But if I'm going to look at Anamu Road, you know, that just was recently either not all overhauled, but did, and going to the drainage is quarter, everything is, how am I going to defend that? Please add these people more, because what Ugandans are craving for, give us quality, you know, let's have quality, then we shall know that we need to give you more funding. These roads in particular, we have issues of contractors. How do you arrive at these contractors? Are they the best that are available to do this work? Do we have the right terms for these contractors? We've seen contractors abandon work. Then you confiscate equipment.
But the other question is, Chirabo, the other question is are funds being disbursed to the contractors in time before they can, so that they can do their work? Because we've had also claims of not being paid in time.
And you know, contractors are private sector players. They don't work without
If KCCA says We are going to work on 27 roundabouts. We've secured funds
from JICA.
Now, I know donor funds or these development partners, they have their funds. I want to give you an example that once the road mayor was criticizing when he was talking about this, working on this road of where we have this sort of spring, Luzira Silver Spring.
Yeah.
Bugolobi. He was talking of some amount of money that had been put on buying, is it about HIV, buying condoms and all that. So are we?
And the money had been meant for roads?
It was part of what was given to us.
Because when
and
development partners give us money,
it
in most cases,
it is the specific
exactly. If it is to work on roundabouts in Kampala Metropolitan, then work on the roundabouts.
Now you factor in that among the monies that you're giving us, we need a specific budget because we will fall sick. We need to set up some temporary clinics for them. We need to provide them with condoms because they are coming from up. Some will have this excitement. They'll have the money. It is in HIV prevention.
So it is under the construction, but now other things are
miscellaneous.
The miscellaneous is seeping through and taking a big chunk.
The budget for the contractors alone, I want to believe.
If we are securing a loan from JICA, all they have committed and the funds are available, after a specific time when this project is supposed to be complete, it's not completed, it stagnates. Is it absence of funds? Then we hear the contractor abandoned or the contractor failed to do this. Now we are in courts of law sorting out certain issues. So we need to better organize ourselves. That is what I believe. We need to have a time and work on that. 7th Street Industrial Area, all these areas. So how long? Because I think there is a mismatch. And I don't want to look at so much on little funds, because the little funds, what have you delivered to
Olive, also to mention, by the way, the other issue at hand here when it comes to infrastructure development in the capital, the buildings, the state of the buildings we have in Kampala. You do realize that, well, Kampala City Council Authority is also doing, various, drives within the city to remove and dismantle some of these kind of businesses settled within containers in spaces they are not supposed to be. Because remember, they are, when you look at the development of the city or the city plans, there's supposed to be a non-motorized, lane that is for people using, the pedestrians,
yes,
and then maybe persons with disability who are using their own, support systems.
But have you seen what happens there?
And you find vehicles there. You find, packed. You find border riders and cyclists.
Traders are occupying them with their merchandise.
Now, the worst part now with our buildings, again taking me back to the drainage, I know we've seen these videos where once it rains heavily, you're seeing buildings flooding. Even buildings that were not constructed in a wetland, let's say, settlement.
Yes.
Because at least what we do know is that the city is far-fetched from
the wetlands. When you look at streets like Loam Street, William Street, and
where
the
most
like,
of the arcades are.
And now, those are the places that usually flood.
That flood. And when you go to trace and see, do these places have proper drainage systems, you will be shocked. Because these are places where thousands and millions of people come in, every month to shop and
every day.
Every day, in fact. Now you wonder whether our drainage, whether the city planners, if they are really intentional when it comes to planning for this city. Because remember, the more these buildings kind of, flood every day, the chances are very minimal for them to survive the test of time they have, because they become weak.
No,
day in, day out.
So you're opening a can of worms or a Pandora's box. Yeah, when you come to issues of planning, issues of infrastructure in this city of ours, because it is a very broad issue and very complicated. Now, one, begin with planning. Who issues these plans for these buildings?
Do we have a planning authority, and is it working?
We have a whole, would I call it even a directorate within KCCA, or a department? I think a department is the right word to use. Now, two, you go to enforcement. Because there are areas where you find that KCCA did its work perfectly. But when the person goes to begin the construction, they're off plan. And KCCA enforcement is not very effective there. Either they don't have the manpower, or these people are so crafty. One will tell you they build at night. Now you tell them, if you're enforcement, why don't you work at night as well? That they tell you we are working official hours.
If
we
doctors
don't work weekends.
are working day and night,
yes.
and you know that people construct at night, and you're the supervisory
I think
body,
we all remember what
can't you
happened
find
in
a solution to that?
I think 2 years back.
Yes.
When a building that was being constructed
fell,
collapsed.
It's not the only one,
and
even
it's
in
not the only one.
Makindi, yes,
Even
Kansanga,
this is
all
how
across
they'll
the
tell you,
country.
Sometimes they will tell you, these people build on weekends or build at night. These sites and our enforcement team do not work at night, so it's hard for them to go with that. So even when someone presents a good plan, it is approved by KCCA, you end up that these crafty people will do that and enforcement does not work at
Robert,
night.
you're not the spokesperson of KCCA, but I will pose this question and probably try to answer it as KCCA. You have found a problem that people construct over the weekend and at night, but your issue, your enforcement officers do not work at night or over the weekend. So what have you done to right that wrong?
First, it is a bigger problem, because if under their contracts or public service, people work Monday to Friday. People work the hours they are given, 8 to 5.
That is on the people, but what has the authority done? Because nothing is written in stone. Certain things can change.
Certain things can change, but you see, sometimes government workers, there's a lot of rigidity.
No, besides the rigidity, because
someone may even tell, maybe you're going to go for overtime pay, which you may not be having.
No, then that means it is a people problem.
I remember one time KCCA brought these...
Gentlemen, I still feel like if I had KCCA here and they answered me like that, it would be an excuse. It's not written in stone. You are letting buildings that are even a danger to people's lives continue to go up in the sky, and your reason is people construct at night and over the weekend. And you're saying you cannot find a solution.
That is not the main reason.
One of the reasons.
That is one of the reasons.
One of the
Then the
reasons.
other they will tell you. Then the other they will tell you. The other they will tell you that, you see, this country, the Pearl of Africa, we've had issues of people who are connected and selective enforcement. Remember one time Simon Kasiate told me that you go to a site, the security there beats way the security you have.
And someone asks you, do you know me?
And
do you know who I am?
Vacate. Your enforcement cannot take over
that,
because people in this country have many that are breaking the law with a lot of impunity.
So there is the issue of impunity. I think the conversation around infrastructure development in the country is one we can talk about and we can't exhaust, because we've not even touched the points where there is widespread vandalism of traffic lights. During the NAM convention, I would drive through that Yusufule Road and it was well lit. Lately, it is dark. And even, it is sad, by the way, along Acacia Avenue, it is dark. How do you have such beautiful roads and they're dark? But KCCA will tell you, people vandalize the traffic lights. So what solutions can we get for the vandalism of traffic lights, road signage, because that is also another cancer.
But Monica,
it is a growing cancer.
We are winding up, and I need your last remarks.
And it's a cancer that you may
Jerome
not
finish.
KCCA, by the way, when it comes to people who vandalize. You do realize that now that goes back to us as Ugandans. Do we even love good things?
Exactly.
Because as much as we point a finger at KCCA, you point a finger at the Uganda National Roads Authority, that we have not done this and this, and when they try to do something that is not at the level where we want to be, but at least in their means, you find someone, if someone comes out to steal a traffic, rather these street lights, for example.
Yes.
Because these were also cases that the Railway Corporation was reporting back then, where some people were actually vandalizing the rails. I still don't know how they would do it. But these are things that cause damage and make it even worse for developments, because then you're putting the authority into planning for things they had not even had in mind.
Okay, so I hear you on that, Jerome Paul, and that is a people problem. But maybe I don't know. We don't have time, but probably a question to ponder on as we get off air is there are countries that have managed, like in Rwanda, to ensure that vandalism is not there, the traffic lights are working. What are they doing, and what can we, how can we learn from them?
People there like good things.
I don't want to say, as I wind up, my parting shot is first,
in a few seconds.
This is good news that you're having more roundabouts stand into better to reduce traffic, but let's also focus on maintenance. What we are doing, how do we keep it there? Now, for this issue of vandalizing, I think, this is my personal opinion, KCCA also should check itself. I'm tempted to believe this could be also an inside job in one way or the other. Because when we talk about an ordinary thug, leave alone signposts and dustbins, but climbing up and stealing a battery of those traffic lights in areas that are well lit and well protected. An ordinary Ugandan, I sometimes feel that maybe these people who come for maintenance...
I think their weakness
could you be underestimating Uganda?
That after this, let's say this street light was vandalized, how do you follow up to see how did it get vandalized? Did
well, I have some views. I have some views, gentlemen. I have some views coming through, and this one is from Patrick Kaira, and he says we have a problem of poor planning when it comes to our roads in the city. There is a big problem that needs to be fixed in KCCA. You can't talk of a smart city when we have potholes with filth flowing in the roads. That is Patrick Kaila. Oh, he also has another point. He says, secondly, due to poor planning, we don't even have space for widening the roads. Someone constructs a structure up to the road reserve. For me, I think there is lack of supervision from KCCA. People, we deserve a clean city. And he says, look at downtown, it's a mess. People vandalize green areas, selling tomatoes in the middle of the roads. Do you see these activities in other regional cities? And he concludes by saying the city is dirty and we need a rescue. Go to Kigali and see funny buildings without proper designs, flouting designs. The problem is KCCA. Hey, you're tough. And then this one is Haduli Rogers from Namaingo district, and he says he's a member of the NRM, and he says, I have been on the committee of NRM village level, so I'm now proposing to become a chairperson of
wrong forum.
No, this is a wrong forum. Now he says, good morning. The only way to solve traffic jam is to work on feeder roads in all areas like Bombo Road, work at Chitezi to Kawanda, link it to, like it is at Makindye, Munyoro, Makindye, Entebbe, then Ginger Road, work on Weyogere, start on Jokers behind Namanve to Mukono. It's me, Fahad Frederick. Thank you so much, Fahad from Makindye Luwafu. And with that, the gentlemen are beaming. They want to say something, but I won't let them. We will end this conversation here, but we can keep it.
Ruben is in Studio B and he's
Ruben
burning
is in
out to
Studio
say something.
Oh wow! Shall we have sports today?
as if in Buyikwe.
We do have roads, by the way. When you
the
go,
people of Buyikwe are well represented.
The other side, if you're heading to Jinja, and there's a lot of traffic on Mabira. People use the other side of Buyikwe.
Okay, the people of Buyikwe are clearly well represented. But also, Ruben, in as much as he comes from Buyikwe, there is somewhere he stays. I won't mention the place, but they have good roads there. So, Ruben, why are you banning?
No, just that the topic is actually trending. I liked the topic. Of course, the message that came in from one of the viewer out there who said that it's a waste of time. So many roads are not really in good shape. The city is in mess. I want to commend him that me and him can build a better Uganda. So you don't have to run away from the fact that we are all responsible for whatever happens. Those who are corrupt should know, all that happens because of the corruption we have in the country. So we shouldn't blame or point fingers. We should just join hands and make sure that we achieve whatever we want to achieve for a better Uganda.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mpima. I was going to be so shocked if you complained about the roads from in Buyikwe.
No, but Buyikwe is okay.
Buyikwe has a beautiful road.
Sure.
Yes. Very beautiful.
No, the one from Lugazi to Buyikwe is bad. It's not good. But what if you use Katosi? You go through Konjeru, then you go to Chikakanya, Lugasa, to Naja, then to Nyenga. That's the best.
Someone
doesn't know. Someone doesn't know what you point.
Talk about Entebbe Road now.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. Now, we are not done yet because Ruben in Studio B is going to be giving us sports updates. But for me and Robert Chirabo and Joram Paul Sonko, and on behalf of Chantal Oliver Kaninda, we say have a beautiful Thursday.
Good morning. I am from the two gentlemen and the lady into sports. I want to tell you that it's fun here in studio. When the boys enjoy the beautiful lady, you have to come in and see what they do to the ladies here. But anyway, I am from the fan of